one of the first issues that you'll face after leaving a traditional desktop environment and coming over to a window manager such as DWM is setting the DPI. So the DPI just helps with scaling things on your display, and it'll cause issues if you want to have sort of the perfect font size. At least for me, I really noticed it with fonts. Like when I was trying to set the font sizes on my display, just it never really looked right until I actually had set the DPI setting to the quote unquote magical number, right? And you'll kind of notice it because if you mess around with it, there's always like a sort of sweet spot in between. But anyway, there are two commands that I know of to set the DPI, and one is this Xrender, and then we say DPI, and then we have our number here. Now for me, this wasn't always working, so I chose to do it the route of configuring the Xresources file. So, but anyway, the first thing that we have to do is run Xrender, and this will just give us our displays, and whichever display it is that you use, just look at what resolutions are offered and which one it is that you use. So for me, I use 1080p, which is right here. So let's go over to our web browser, and we just come here to goodcalculators.com, and we can use the Ppi Calculator here. So we will enter in this field the horizontal resolution, which is 1920, then 1080 on the vertical, and then get the diagonal length of the screen. Mine happens to be 15.6, and we can just calculator. And the PPI is actually the DPI, the optimal sort of setting. So you can just round it off. So I'm going to round it down to 141. All right. So now we go back here, and in this terminal here, we can run Xresources here, and this is where we will set our DPI. And ignoring everything else, let's just scroll down to line 7 here, the DPI setting, and let's change that to some random number so that we can see the change. So let's just save. Okay, close that. Now we just have to merge and reload our configuration here. And the neat thing about DWM, when we compare it to like other window managers that use other bars, is that this entire top here runs from that file. So for example, in BSPWM, you'd have to not only configure this resources file, but you'd also have to configure the polybar config to tell polybar what your DPI setting is. But anyway, now that we've reloaded our configuration, we can now reload DWM, and we'll see. So now everything looks a lot smaller because the DPI setting was changed. So let's just move this stuff out of the way because it's gonna drive me nuts. All right, so let's change our Xresources back, and let's put it to the optimal setting. Save it, merge everything. Actually, let's go back because I didn't show that the terminal will also, so all of your other apps, when you do this, will also follow that configuration. So as we see ST here, just change its text size based on that setting over there. So let's go back and set it to my original setting, which is 141. Save, merge, and then reload DWM, and we can see that we're on this great size now, this great display here. So to make this stick at every start of the server, we just have to go into our Xresources RC and load everything like this. So this command is recommended in the Arch wiki if you use a custom Xresources RC file. If you're on the default file, you I think can just load it regularly, but they recommend doing it like this if you're doing other stuff, which I am. So that's why I'm loading the configuration like this. Just hit Control X and then save, and as soon as you log in and you start X, it'll read from that configuration file. So I think that this is the correct way to set your entire display, right? So first you get your DPI settings, you set them, and then you start messing with the fonts, because even if you increase font sizes without having the correct DPI settings, maybe you might get something that looks good, but it won't ever really look like it's hit the perfect spot for your liking. At least to me, that's something that I noticed. So first set the DPI, and then configure that, and then you can start messing with your font configurations in like ST, Google Chrome, whatever it is that you use. So that's about it. I hope that you found this useful.